really breaking through to the clients to get them to apply those systems. And I want you to touch on what those systems look like in a bit, but what have been your key takeaways when you were a coach to really encourage the application of those systems by clients? Because
Yeah.
as much as we want to as PTs, we can't do the work for our clients.
So I would break it down like it depends on the personality profile of a client, right? So let's just say you're working with someone like me, a CEO, a manager, someone who's like pretty to the point, right? Now, for me, the simplest thing is to relate it back to the return on financial and time investment, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm not following your plan, I'm wasting money.
Yes.
Right. So as a CEO, as a manager, whatnot, in your career, a lot of your time is spent looking at P&Ls, looking at profit and loss. It's looking at what is going to yield the best return on my time to create a better outcome for my business or my family or whatever that might be. So I would relate it back to the financial cost, but then I'd also relate it back to the performance cost. Because like with someone like me, I don't need you to nurture me, right? I just
Yeah.
need you to spell it out. Dane, look, I love working with you, but if you don't keep doing this, all this money that you're spending with me, you might as well be throwing it in the fire. And
Yeah.
I know you're really, are trying to kind of grow your career and reach more people and stuff like that. But I'm telling you now, if you start cutting out, I don't know, the chocolate bars and pizza and stuff that you're doing every night, you're probably going to wake up with less brain fog. You're going to be more switched on throughout the day and able to perform at a higher level. So I would always relate it back to the for a driven individual, like the loss that they're potentially achieving, or susceptible themselves to. But with someone who is obviously maybe a bit more like they just struggle maybe emotionally, or they struggle to like they need more nurturing as
Yeah.
a client. Obviously you're not going to use that same approach, right? For someone like that, it needs to be something where there's probably going to be more touch points of communication, right? A lot more understanding why they have certain behaviors. And that's where we touch base on in our performance nutrition coach certification, in particular the level 3, where we talk about things like neuroplasticity and the art of behavioral science, right?
Yes.
And in essence, the because for a lot of people that have got poor eating habits, poor lifestyle choices, poor training habits, notice I use the term habits. And
Yes.
that's what a lot of them are. They're just poor habits. They're kind of programmed and ingrained into behaving a certain way. They wake up every day. They do the same thing. They might skip a meal. They have X, Y, Z at dinner. They snack on, two handfuls of nuts in the afternoon that they don't realize has over 1,000 calories, even though they think it's healthy. And they're, in a 20-30% surplus every day, right? So a lot of it with them, it's like ingraining habits. And one of the biggest things that I do or used to do with every client was I have a saying, spend more time at the beginning so you spend less time at the end. So as a coach, we used to have things like, a client guidebook, right? So it'd be like a book that kind of goes through different meal recipes, explaining their training, the effects of, poor lifestyle choices stuff. So they've got that there as a reference point, but really coming up with mechanisms to have multiple touch points with them across the week, in particular over that first month.
Yeah.
Because I think if you can really create change in month one and create momentum being the key word, if they come to the end of month one and they've already achieved some of their results, it's a lot easier for them to be compliant.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think in your initial consultation process, like I used to call it the rules of engagement. This is what I'm going to do as your coach. This is what I need you to do as my client. And I need to know here and now before we move forward, like, is this something that you can do?
Yep. Be very clear from the start. Yeah.
Yeah, be very clear, right? Because if you're clear with them and set expectations, you can also refer back to that.
Yeah.
And you're not doing it to maybe guilt trip them, but it's more from a standpoint of, hey, remember that chat we had? and I mentioned that every Monday I need you to fill in your biofeedback form for the previous week, where we're looking at your sleep, your stress, your energy levels, your libido, all that type of stuff. Like, I can't help you get the change that you're after if you aren't helping yourself.
Exactly, exactly. And I think sometimes as PTs, we care so much about our clients and we want the change so bad for them, but we also have to remember we can't want it more than our clients want it. We're there as their guide, we're their GPS, we're not the driver. But that
Yeah.
doesn't mean, a lot of PTs, especially if you've been coaching for a while, you will run into those clients where you just might not be the right fit. And you might find it out maybe at the beginning, maybe in the middle of your training with them. And it's okay to break up with a client. I used to be very afraid of this. And this was something where at the end of the day, you might just not be the right fit. And, they might find success with someone
I
else.
did an article on this in 2010. It was called "The Top Three Reasons You Should Fire Your Client," and
Talk to us a little bit about that.
it really, like, it went pretty viral within the fitness industry. And one of the reasons why I did that is because you can only give your energy to so many people, right? So if you've got those vampires that basically don't want to listen, are constantly kind of contacting you at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night, that come to every session and then just try and dump stuff on you. You need to value your self-worth and time. And I used to, like, initially be hesitant to do that because I'm like, oh, I can't afford to. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you should go without business. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But you also need to set, it's like a relationship, let's just say in a relationship and your partner cheats on you, right? Well, okay, maybe something happened that first, who knows, right? There's no judgment.
Yeah.
But, if that keeps happening, then at what
Yeah.
point, you know what I mean? So it's the same thing in a relationship with a client. If they continually don't listen to your advice, what do you do? Sometimes you just got to let them go.
Yeah, I think it's just for your own, like you mentioned, your value as a PT. And at the beginning, you may feel like you need to onboard everybody to make it financially. But once you get to that point where you're a little bit more comfortable financially, don't be afraid to be selective with who you onboard because you'll save yourself more time for more valuable clients who actually will apply themselves, make more change, make the transformations, bring you more business. It's a win-win situation in that sense too.